Welcome to Life Picks Relationships, helping you understand and enliven your marriage through the various perspectives and experiences of others who found a way to prioritize what's really important in life. From new love to those that have weathered the storms, let's get ready to take your relationships to the next level with your host, ST.
Hey, Life Pickers, hope you're having an awesome day. Did you enjoy that previous episode with Sandra and Richard? I was so surprised at how much I liked it. Even though I am not a meditation fan, I was not thinking we would go and speak so much about it. And we just went deep into it. And it was just cool. Even as someone who doesn't meditate, just can't do it. I mean, I shouldn't say I can't, because if I wanted to, then I could, but it was cool. So even if you don't meditate, you'll want to go and check out the previous episode. Actually, if you're new here, you will want to go and check out the previous episodes. Go and catch yourself up, at least the past 10 episodes. You want to go and listen to them, so that way you really know what we're up to and you have the latest tips at your fingertips. Now, for today's episode, I am super excited. We have a licensed marriage and family therapist who focuses on specifically what happens once you have a baby, or the process of having a baby, like before you have the baby, after you have the baby, and how it really goes and affects your relationship. She's the author and founder of Happy with Baby. I just love that name. Thank you so much, Catherine, for being here. I am super excited to be speaking with you. You want to start by telling us how you met your husband.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see, how long have we been together? I don't remember even, but it was back in the day when online dating became like the thing you did. You weren't like putting your name in the newspaper anymore, meeting people. So my girlfriend had just met her boyfriend, who later became her husband. And she's like, just go on there, and you're not meeting people at work or anything like that. So why don't you just go on there and just like practice dating? Because I'd been on dates and had boyfriends, but it just wasn't like meeting people. So I went on Match.com all these years ago, and I went out with I think three other guys, and he was the fourth one that I went out with. And they were all very like either, oh, this was horrible date. And my roommate would she was on stand. She would always call me like 30 to 40 minutes in to be like, did my car break down or not? Like, do you need to get out of there? And it was like, and he was definitely, I did not need to escape my date with him.
The other three did.
No, I didn't leave any of them, but it was like one was very close. And so we met, we met on a Sunday night, which I thought, okay, this is weird. And he said he had planned it. He would try to do his dates like that, so it'd be easy to get out, because he would have to go to work the next day. So he had his little contingency plan. I had my contingency plan. And the funny thing is, I worked in mental health, and I didn't want to put my picture online. And plus it was one of those times when I couldn't put it on with my phone. I had to go to Kinko's and upload a picture and bring it back. So I didn't have a picture posted, but I would say I'll email you my picture if you just so proof that I'm who I say I am, kind of thing. But he didn't have a picture either. And usually I'm not responding to a guy without a picture, but in his bio, he had put, he didn't have a picture due to work. So in a lot of ways, he did not look compatible to me. Like, he was kind of leaning the different way that I did, but I was so intrigued by what he did for work, because that's why I didn't have a picture that I
didn't even know what he did for work.
No, I didn't. But I'm like, that was the thing that hooked me to be like, okay, I just want to find out what you do for work. So he was an attorney. He actually worked as a public defender at the time at juvenile hall, which I had clients that were at juvenile hall. So so we knew a couple people in common that I had been associated with. So he went and asked about me at work after our first date. And I knew right away that I'm like, oh, this guy is different. I like him. I will definitely go out with him again.
What were you doing at that time?
I was working at an agency for children and families that were at risk. And we were kind of doing what are called wraparound services and providing therapy and community-based support, and would work with them in the school, in the home, in the community, and stuff like that. So yeah, I did have some children that were at juvenile hall as well, and trying to help get them back, having the support that they needed to be successful in life. So
yeah. Yeah. And what does your husband do today?
He's an attorney. He works for the county though. Still, yeah.
So he's still in that field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, just curious, how many kids do you have yourself?
We have 2 children. They just turned a couple months ago, 12 and 8.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. So then how did you get into the work that you do today?
I had a kid.
I love that answer. I had a kid.
Yeah. So I mean, when I was working the community-based support, like I was, an intern, a marriage and family therapist intern, and I went into private practice, and I was working, as a therapist at the time that I had my son, and had been for quite some time. And we had been together like 5 years, and we weren't married very long when we got pregnant. And so we celebrated our first anniversary with a 3-week-old. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was not what we were doing last year. I'm so tired. And the thing is that I was like, why is this so hard? Like, I didn't realize it was going to be so difficult on our relationship. Like, we're not the type of couple that argues or fights or anything like that, but we were having like more like disagreements, or he would say something and however it would come out would like hurt my feelings. And I'm sure vice versa, sort of thing, though probably not in the same way for him, but just like more, just really feeling like disconnected. And I talk about like in my book how we had some disagreement or something happened. To this day, I couldn't tell you what it was about. All I remember is that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is not good. This is horrible. What happened to our relationship? And just having to go to work like on a Saturday, because I had adjusted my schedule to work when my husband was home so he could be with our son. And I'm on my way to work, just like crying, thinking I'm supposed to be going in to help couples with their relationships.
That was my question to you. Like, what was that? Like,
what is wrong with my relationship? Yeah, it was very, very upsetting to me. Like, I'm like, I don't know what happened, because I thought everything was so good. And so, I call a girlfriend, and she, talked me off the ledge and reassured me that, I'm tired, that a lot of this is normal, but we needed to find a way to get back to spending like some quality time together. And how are we gonna do that? And fortunately that evening we were able to like go like on a short little walk. And I think we went to a local place and had dessert. And just after that, I was just like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, we're okay. Like, he doesn't hate me. I don't hate him. Like, we just need to figure out, like, we weren't getting enough sleep. We were, trying to do all these things. We were both learning how to take care of a child, plus learning, how to be, he was, we're both back at work, all these things. And it was overwhelming. And we had to figure out how to get back to each other, with having a child. And so I knew I was having a difficult time, and I would go to these moms groups, and I would hear some other moms having, similar, but some different issues, and what a difficult time they were having. And I started thinking like, well, why did no one actually warn me about this? Or like, why did I not know all these things about the challenges of bringing a baby home? And so I just kind of, created like a mental list of like, okay, I wish I would have known this. I wish I would have known that. I wish
what were some of those this and that
supported me. Yeah. Like, I wish I would have known that there are like these common, transition issues that we all are going to go through, that there is this challenging time. I wish I would have known more about the effects on our mental health, and how it could, when you're sleep deprived and carrying this new mental load and stuff like that, how different ways it could affect you and your partner. I wish I would have known better ways to like make the household management stuff easier. I wish I would have known ways to kind of keep that connection and intimacy alive. And I wish I would have known how different your parents act once you bring a baby home, the grandparents, and what, like how different that can be, and how do you manage that together as a couple? So yeah, those are just like
some like life. Things. Everything they do is now changed. Everything is different now.
Yes, exactly.
So, as you're talking this, like I'm thinking, okay, there's like people here listening who just had a baby recently, maybe even like a 2-year-old, a couple years, and obviously that had affected their marriage. But there's also people here who don't have kids yet, and maybe they're thinking of having a kid one day. What should they know before? What advice? How should they really prepare to be ready for when they do bring the baby home?
That's a really good question, Mike. Okay, I could talk to you forever about this. How to put it succinctly. Okay, so I feel like there's like 3 questions that you ask yourselves. You can start asking yourselves before you have a baby too, but until forever. And maybe the third one you won't quite be ready to answer if you don't have a child yet. But the first one is, what am I doing to make sure that I'm taking care of myself? Like, what are those things that I need on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? The second one is, what am I doing to make sure that I'm connecting with my partner and supporting my partner on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And the third one is, what am I doing to connect and bond with my child on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Like, what, from little things that we do to like the bigger things, like for your relationship, like the daily check-in with each other, like, how's your day? Like, did you struggle with anything? Do you need support with anything? To like making sure you get those like weekly dates on the schedule, to, quarterly getaways, or however often you can get a getaway with each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you making sure that you're prioritizing yourselves? Because there are so many things that come into play, and we can't. And the first question is, what are you doing to care for yourself? Because I don't think you can do the other two ongoing sustainably if you're not prioritizing and taking care of yourself.
That's so true. And I like how it's like 3 questions. So like it's not as overwhelming. You're like, okay, what am I doing for myself? I'm going to go and take care of that. What am I doing for my relationship?
Yeah.
What am I doing for my child in the relationship with my child? And then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I could do this. That's like manageable. I could do that. And I like, life is so hard and I can't do anything. And like,
yeah. And they can overlap, right? So it's like, so for instance, an example we use all the time is my husband always gave the kids their baths when they were little. And so he would give them their baths and help get them ready for bed. And that was my time I could get a little break, right? So he's making sure I'm getting time to wind, to like have for myself, whether, it's 15 to 30 minutes, however long it took. But it was like, okay, like this is good. Like I finally have a little time for myself today because maybe I've been busy all day with the kids. So that helps him connect and bond with the kids, but then is also letting me have that time for myself. Or sometimes I would do the dishes or do something like that and get things ready. So then when the kids are in bed, then we have like downtime, alone time with with each other, that then we're having that connection time with each other. So it's not like a lot of them like overlap and support each other, so it's not
right. Yeah. It's separate things. I mean, like your mind could focus on one thing while you're like thinking about it, but it doesn't mean like, taking time for yourself means you have to like lock everyone else out. It could be like taking time for yourself is together with your partner. So
yeah.
So that is, I love those questions as they're like, I think for everyone, like you said, they're not just from before, but is there anything specific? Like, what do you tell people before they have their baby? How could they be ready? So cool. Like, know these things, know what to do, what's going to happen once they actually have their baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I'm big on coming up with a postpartum plan. So it's like, what support do you need? Like you're going to need, like your partner isn't your postpartum plan. So you can't depend on them for everything. Like it's just because they need help too. This is their postpartum too, right? So we can't just like rely on our partner. And I know in a lot of cases that is a lot of people's circumstances. They don't have like family nearby or other, friend support or whatever. So it's like, how can you like, bring other people in to help you, whether it's preparing, meals or someone in to clean the house, or maybe you get like a postpartum doula to help you like figure out the sleep schedule or, the breastfeeding stuff. Like you'll need support in so many different ways because there's so much newness. And so it's like being able to plan, like, what areas do you think? And then just even communication is like talking about how this is going to be so different. Your relationship is going to change and it's going to be really overwhelming and maybe even shocking, but but it doesn't have to be like a terrible thing. Like it's like, okay, we're going to keep talking about this. We're going to keep talking about, gosh, we really seem to be like getting under each other's skin and acknowledging the challenges that we're having, because I think it helps bring down these walls we put up of like resentment and stuff. Like I'm feeling like I'm doing more. My husband's feeling like he's doing more. And I mean, let's be honest, we're both doing more.
Right.
We're both doing a lot, and just talking about that and sharing how we're feeling about things and our overwhelm, and then figuring out like, is this something that we can handle together, or is this something that we need to get like additional support for to help us, because I feel like we need a lot. And we used to have like these community villages of support, and we just don't have that kind of society anymore, which is really not helpful to families. And I think the pandemic has this magnified the challenges that we have as parents and the lack of support that we have, and just how hard it is to be a parent today.
Yeah. What do you find is the biggest challenge for couples after they have their baby?
Biggest challenge.
Or is it just everything?
Yeah, I'm trying to think like I mean, I think it comes down to communication, right? Like they're just not like, I often hear from couples like, I don't want to have to ask. Like, I don't want to have to ask for everything. And then they're not doing what you want them to do or what you need, because you think that they should notice, but they're not going to notice things in the same way that we do. So then you're going to be constantly disappointed. Or, if when it comes to like sex and intimacy, like not talking about like, hey, I'm not comfortable, I just had a baby, I'm not comfortable. And, maybe he's not asking because he doesn't want to put pressure. And then I'm feeling not desired because you're not asking for it, like all these things, because we're not talking or saying what we think or saying what we need. And we want the other person to be like a mind reader, or like, we've been together long enough, you should know, no, I don't know.
Right. No, you don't. Yeah. And it's like, just like assuming things, and especially that it's such a big change. A lot of things that could have been before now, like maybe don't work anymore, now need to be different. Yeah. And it doesn't mean one's better, one's worse. It just changed, and the dynamics has changed.
Right.
How has this actual work of like helping people affect your own marriage?
How does it affect it? I mean, for one thing, so, I had put together like all these things I wish I would have known about having a child. And I got an opportunity shortly after to do a workshop on, basically, I called it Mine, Yours, Ours, Relationship Survival Guide to Baby's First Year. And my husband helped me prep, because he's really, he's an attorney. He's a really good speaker, right? I hope. And so he's like, helped me prep, and he, I would say something and he would like come back and say it in such a like eloquent way. And I was like, gosh, I really wish you were doing this workshop with me. I think that, that would be, you could be there as like my backup or whatever. And he's like, and I was surprised that his response was, yeah, I would totally teach this class with you. I was like, you would? Like, this is not even in his wheelhouse or whatever. So I was teaching it with a childbirth educator, and she was no longer able to teach it with me, but she's like, I really want you to continue to teach this workshop. And I asked her, I'm like, well, what do you think if my husband taught it with me? And she's like, I think that would be amazing. So we've actually taught this together for over 11 years. We do some intensive like postpartum planning sessions together. I mean, I think it has helped us. It's not mean we don't have any miscommunication or struggles, but it keeps me on my toes. Like recently, our kids are finally back in school and activities are picking up, and we're out of the loop of how to like scheduling, calendaring things. And I'm always like talking to my clients about, okay, like you've got to put it on the calendar, you as a way of communication and remembering, like, if you tell me you have a meeting late, I'm probably not going to remember that because of all these other things coming at me. And so it's like having it somewhere where we both can see it and remember, and that's how we're planning things. So we're having to like get back in the habit of doing that again. And I think it just makes me more aware like of the things I am preaching that I need to be also doing with my partner. And of course, not everything works for us, that works for other people. And there's like so many different things, but it's like figuring out what works best for you. And I think that has just helped me over the years. Is it's like, at one time, something worked and now something else is more effective, and just how we communicate.
Oh, cool. So he's really like in it with you. He's still doing
Yeah.
these workshops.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we haven't done any live in-person workshops, this last year, but we have been doing some, like we have one this weekend, like an intensive postpartum planning session, like longer sessions with couples and stuff. So, which is like it's so fun. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to have him. Like, I like hanging out with him. Like, I really like him.
Yeah.
Still.
What you told about him.
Yeah. So it's like, he's fun to hang out with, and we have a good time. And, I think we're good.
Being an actual thing. And
yeah. 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 Prove that you can survive the postpartum years, so, but yeah, and come out, liking each other. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. To do.
Yeah. Now you had your second child after you were already doing this work, right? If I'm making calculations correctly, 11 years of doing
yes.
this.
Yeah. They're 4 years apart. Yeah. So we were teaching about 3 years when we had our youngest. Yeah.
So obviously second one is always easier. Like you're a little bit like, more what to expect on some level, but because you're actually working in it, you now not got to actually like put it into practice of what you were saying. So what was that like?
It was so much easier the second time for us. We experienced, we could not figure out the whole nighttime routine. Our son, I feel like he did not sleep through the night until he was like 11 months. And then finally, like it got better. Like finally he did. And I mean, he slept through the night ever since. Right. And our youngest had more, I remember I think like 7 weeks old, slept for like 7 hours, and we were just like, what is this magic? Like, I remember waking up like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, because I was like so rested. It was like shocking to me because I had never happened with him. So we were just able to get a better rhythm with sleep, even though like she was a much more challenging sleeper, and still like she came in our bed last night, so at like 8 years old, so, but it was like an easier situation. We were communicating better about things. She slept better. She slept in our room much longer than he did.
Did you have like a certain like method or something to really get her to put to sleep, or just like natural of what you were doing?
A certain method? No, we just, what we did, we prioritized our sleep, right? Like we knew that like on some level, like sleep training and stuff like that, I know can be helpful, but we found like if we made sure that we were each getting enough sleep, we could conquer whatever happened that day with our kids. So we prioritize how we were. I mean, of course, we, put our kids down and make sure that they're getting plenty of sleep, but we also made sure that we were getting plenty of sleep because it made us be able to.
Now, how do you do that if you have a kid waking up in the middle of the night to be fed or to be taken care of?
Well, so I talk about like, I mean, ideally, if we could all get like 8 to 10 hours of sleep, I think is great. But I think if we can get at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep, that's more manageable than if we're getting like the 2 to 3 hours. And I know like breastfeeding and stuff like that comes into play. And so we were like early on, I had to pump because we had a lot of like breastfeeding issues. So I would like breastfeed and alternate pumping with her because for whatever. So she took a bottle early on. So I would put her, we would put her down. I would feed her and we'd put her down and I would pump one more time. And he would, I was the type that just barely made enough to to feed my children, like barely made enough. I never had like excess milk or anything. And he would give that first bottle when she would wake up around like midnight. And I was able to sleep through that. And then I would get up the next feeding.
And so he would stay sleeping. So you took turns. Yeah. You really worked out this whole thing together.
Yeah. So we had never figured that out with the first one, but it was like that first, like he's more of a night owl and I tend to get up earlier. So this kind of worked out for us that way. And there were times where I'm like, oh, but I would have to go to bed early. Like she was going to bed at like 7 or 8 or something like that. And I, after I pumped, I would go down to sleep too. And there was times where I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock at night. Like I feel so like
a little kid who's like, I want to stay up late.
I want to go to bed. I want to hang out with my husband. And, there were, on the weekend when I could get a little extra sleep, possibly, I would stay up later, or something like that. But I just knew I'm one of those people, I need sleep to function well. And, when you're going on 2 to 3 hours of sleep, day after day after day, like that does not do well for your ability, your mental health, right? It affects our mood and, people mood and anxiety and stuff like that. And it doesn't do well for my ability to communicate or filter what's a, priority or what's an emergency or, everything seems so much harder to me if I'm not getting adequate sleep.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sleep is like the function of your brain, like cleans itself
Yes.
out and
I'm like,
refreshes
I was like,
itself.
I tell people, I'm like, they torture people with sleep deprivation. Like this is a real thing. If you're really struggling, like that's a real thing. So
Yeah. Like people who can't sleep, my heart goes out to them.
oh,
Oh
too,
my goodness.
me too.
Afterwards, like the rest of their lives, like they literally can't, like, I mean, that day, like rest of their time afterwards, you really can't do anything because
Mm-hmm.
you're just missing all that sleep. But I
Yeah.
really like how you guys worked out together something that works for you. And like
Mm-hmm.
some people could just follow exactly what you did, and some people
Yeah.
might have to follow the concept of you and your husband both talking about and working out what works for your actual situation and making it work so you do get sleep. It's not impossible.
Right.
And then when I'm just curious because like this is like, okay, so what happens afterwards? That was in the beginning. And then when she started sleeping through the night, did she like ended up waking up a little earlier? Like you said, she slept 7 hours or something. And then he would wake up then, or you would, or like, what did you do then? I know it's like a bit random, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it was, we would both make sure. And then, she was like an early riser. She would wake up sometimes at 5 o'clock and at the time, our house was like small and we were like, oh, please don't be waking up our oldest. And, one of us needs to sleep. So we then took turns of we go for a walk. Like we live in a nice little neighborhood and there's parks and there's a dog park next by, and we would go for a walk. And then, the dog park, people always there, and we'd go watch the dogs or something like that, and so we would take turns if she woke up early.
so again, it's like working together to go and
Yeah.
make something for that situation because it changes and these things change.
Yes.
Now, how did this second birth affect your daughter? Like she was the only kid, 4 years, and all of a sudden now she has a sibling.
Oh, our oldest is
You're a
a
son.
son.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. He was so excited. Like, so we had to tell him early on that I was pregnant because I was so sick. I had hypernemesis gravidum, and I was that's like morning sickness where except it was like all day and I was having to go for like transfusions for like several times a week for dehydration. It was very horrible. It was horrible. And I had it with him when I was pregnant with him as well, but not as bad.
Maybe it was good that it was better, not better that you had it, but better that you had, if you had it the second child. So you already had a little things more organized.
Yeah. So we told him early on, because it was like, why, they couldn't cook in the house because any smell in the house made me like super nauseous. So they would have to like go outside. They like would go for evening walks and like leave me like on the couch, just so sick. And so we told him early that I was pregnant. So he was just so excited, and he was a little bit older. So he was, almost 3.5 at the time that he found out. And he was just so excited, and he'd been asking for a sibling. So he knew right away it was, going to be a sister, and he was just so excited about that. And then but then she came, and of course he was happy. And then I think he imagined that she would be coming out to play with him. And then she didn't like come out to play.
Having another
she wasn't
friend,
like,
yeah.
When is she going to play with me? You're like, when is she going to play with me? When is she going to play with me? And it was so cute. And then, we would see like some behavioral stuff, like, attention, like, he was
normal,
used to it.
Yeah.
And so we would just try to prioritize making sure we spent special one-on-one time with him. But then we also started doing where, someone would watch the baby and we would spend time together as a family of 3. And I so remember him saying to us, we went to see a movie, like his first movie. And he's like, remember when it was just the 3 of us? And we're like, yeah, buddy. And he's like, and we had nobody to worry about. I'm like, oh yeah,
like him as a kid, he felt the worry of the baby.
Yeah.
Aww.
He's like, we had no one to worry about. I'm like, oh yeah, buddy, there's just the three of us and we were worry free. It was just like the cutest thing. But
children and like the way their minds think. I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, they're pretty sweet. And, you know, people, of course, were like, oh, you can't have them so far apart. Well, it's a little late to have them so far apart because they're like, they won't be good friends or anything like that. And, you know, they are. They like each other. Do they fight or, you know, disagree? Of course they do because they're human, right? And they're siblings. But they do like have a really special bond together as well. So, you know, and my oldest one, his friends are so good, you know, to his little sister and all those things. And
so going back to your 3 questions, and once you have more than one kid, it's like, what am I doing for my children today? But it could also be, what am I doing for this specific child? So if it means having someone else watch the baby, then that's what it's done. Okay. Right. So before we get to our final question, where could Life Pixers learn more about your workshops, what you do, and connect with you?
So my website is happywithbaby.com. And
I love that.
So like, all the information is on there. We, you know, stuff about like our intensives and our workshops and all that stuff. And then I'm on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at Happy with Baby. Because I have to make it simple for myself to remember where I am.
For yourself and it's all their listeners. I like it. It's like Happy with Baby. It's like a good one. It's not like make your life all balanced or something. You know what I'm saying? Like with the baby or whatever.
Yeah. So. And I realize it's not because I think that you always are happy. Like I know that's not a realistic thing, but it's like how like it's a challenge. Like life is challenging, but what can we do to make, you know, to be happy? What can we do to enhance our lives and be better and enjoy things? So, and then our book, which is a lot about, it's basically based off our workshop, and we've added like stories and scenarios and things like that. And we divide it up into the 3 questions, the 3 sections, and it's called Happy with Baby also. And it's essential relationship advice when partners become parents. And that's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and wherever you can buy books. So
awesome. Okay, so for our final question, how would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, connection, or trust?
That's a good question. Okay, how do you describe support, like unwavering support, and like belief and encouragement in the other person's like goals and life, and like almost to the point when like if they're not, you know, if they're struggling themselves or not believing in themselves, like they're there to like have your back and have your back, to be that like that steadfast support. Oh, was that?
Yeah, now I know why your husband joined you in your workshops.
Yes,
I love that. Thank you so much, Catherine. This was amazing.
Oh, I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
That's all for this episode of Life Picks Relationships, and we have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support this show, but also give others what they need to take their marriage to the next level. We're striving to have 1 million downloads per episode by December 31st, 2025, so please share it with your family and friends so they can turn their relationship into an extraordinary one.